At the end of the long journey, what becomes of the two who were to be reunited? Chapter 360 of Berserk Cherry Tree Garden has just dropped, and yeah, it's a Berserk chapter. These don't happen like every day, these are quite a rare occurrence. So yes, I'm making a review of it because I don't usually do manga chapter reviews, only on like very special chapters for stuff. But yeah, if it's a Berserk chapter, I'm going to do a review because it's Berserk, and Berserk is one of the best mangas ever made. So yeah, the chapter's just dropped, and this won't be an in-depth review or anything, this is just my first thoughts and all that. And just before that, I got to call out Real Life Ryan. I mean, stealing my videos, doing a video on wounds, only I'm allowed to do a video on the wounds chapter. But yeah, that wasn't salty, that was a joke. I'm very happy that that chapter's got more attention, because it's the best chapter, or collection of chapters in Berserk in my opinion. But anyway, we're rattling on about old chapters when we got a new chapter to deal with. So Cherry Tree Garden is probably not the chapter most people wanted or expecting. It does deal with the fallout of Casca and Guts reuniting at the beginning. Casca is obviously feeling quite weak, and she isn't exactly the Casca we knew from before the eclipse. She seems a lot more mentally weak, and her soul seems to be weakened quite a bit. She still obviously cares for Farnese a lot. As they say, Farnese is kind of like a safety blanket for Casca, because as she says, even seeing or hearing the voice of Guts just brings back bad memories for her. And although I don't think it's going to be a permanent thing, and I do think hopefully Guts and Casca will have a happy after in some sense, I think it's not going to be an issue that goes away straight away. But that isn't something we focus on this chapter, which may annoy a few people because we're going to wizard school. And this is quite light on characters this chapter. Well, light on our main party. Puck's not in it, which is a shame, because one of my expectations for going in is that Puck would be reassuring Guts, kind of like he did in the Black Swordsman arc over this issue, but we don't get any Puck in this, which is a shame. But it means we don't get any Chestnut Puck, which means we don't get weird Yoda references. So yeah, we're quite light on characters, and we mainly focus on Shirokei and Farnese in this chapter, with Farnese now sporting a new mage wizardy outfit that looks quite nice, and being spied on by Shiroko. And yeah, it's a funny comedic moment. He obviously cares for her, he's always been that way, and this is just solidifying that fact in his character. And it turns out that compared to these other wizards, Shirokei is OP. She's a very powerful mage, because she doesn't need to do any of the summoning circles or anything, and I think this just kind of shows the power of training and being in real situations, which is probably why Guts was got to the strength he is, because unnaturally he is a strong person, but he's been battling his whole life. That's all he does is fight, often to near death, which is why he's so strong. And they're saying it's the same with magic. And even Farnese is very powerful. They say that what she did in 3 months would usually take a year, and that's for a child. Usually adults should not be able to learn magic, so it seems Farnese is a lot more competent at magic than we first thought, because we're putting into perspective how she compares to other magic users. She's a very strong user, so that's quite good to see that we're getting some firepower in the group. And Farnese requests to learn the power of healing, specifically of the soul, showing that she still deeply cares for Casca, which you'd expect, but there might be some animosity there, purely the fact that Farnese obviously, maybe not use the word love, but is attracted to Guts in that kind of way, and Casca is obviously Guts' true love, to say, not to use such fairy tale-esque words in Berserk, because it's Berserk at the end of the day. But you'd think she had some animosity, but she still seems to care deeply for Casca, so she's doing it for Casca's sake, and they say yes, that can be learnt. But we don't get any more of that in this chapter, so that'll probably maybe be next chapter or the chapter after, because after we get all this and we get a lot of I don't want to say mumbo jumbo, but more fleshing out the magic system a bit more. It's all stuff we really knew already, but it's just reaffirming how the magic we've been experiencing is different to the magic they're taught, because it's more rudimentary, more hapshackle, less it's a different kind of magic, and as a result Shirokei and Farnese seem very different to the rest of the wizards there. And then we pan over to our protagonist, to Guts, and it's quite, for me it was quite a touching scene, because it was just Guts swinging his sword like he used to. Back in the Golden Age, all he spent his spare time doing was training with his sword up and down, and that's what he's doing. And he's obviously ruffled, as you expect he would be after what happened to Casca, and the fact that they finally be reunited. But she can't take seeing him, and for that reason he's going through his own coping mechanism, which involves swinging his sword, because it's guts at the end of the day, and his life's meaning, well, in the early part of the story was to swing his sword, although now it's more to protecting Casca. But now that he's done his job and saved Casca in a way, what is there left for him to do? And he seems very conflicted about that, because her wish may not be his, as was said very early on in the series, and it seems, although she does want to be with Guts, her body and mind won't allow it. So Guts is obviously going through a lot of turmoil at this point in the story, and that's when Skull Knight shows up. And as soon as that happened, I was like, something big's going to go down, because it's Skull Knight. Skull Knight only appears when big things are going to go down. I'm not going to try to predict Berserk, because it's Berserk and it's very unpredictable, but it's probably something to do with Griffith. Maybe he's going to sacrifice all of Falconia, or some big God Hand plan, maybe, because he only really shows up at these big events. Or it could literally just be about the Casca stuff, but I don't know, because we really don't know enough about Skull Knight to really predict what his motives are at this point in the story. But so Skull Knight shows up, and then the chapter ends. And I out loud verbally swore, because we've been waiting so long for this chapter, and then the end of the last chapter was the Skull Knight, and the end of this chapter is also Skull Knight. We don't work out what Skull Knight's up to. It's not to say I didn't like this chapter. I really like this chapter, and I really like the fleshing out the magic system, and I'm like to see that that both Casca and Guts are quite drained from this thing, with Guts going back to his solo way of dealing with stuff with just swinging his sword, and Casca seems to be just tired and still seems to cling on to Farnese for safety. So they both have their own coping mechanisms, Casca's being Farnese and Guts being swinging his sword. But yeah, this chapter overall was good. I think it wasn't, as I said, it wasn't the chapter people were expecting, but it did a lot of, I don't want to say world building, but it helped, like, make it seem more relaxed, because we're not in a battle at the moment. Although there's a lot of tension going on between Guts and Casca, they are still in a time of peace, to say, on Elf's Island. So for that reason, I feel it's good to have these more light-hearted moments, even if they are to do, like, Farnese wants to learn to say Casca, but it's not as urgent as the saying they're fighting apostles or fighting trolls or something like that. So yeah, it's not the chapter most people expected, but a good chapter. A lot of speculation I think can be done from this chapter, not only about what the Skull Knight's on about, but about the healing of the soul magic, and Farnese is future in the story, because she's apparently a very strong wizard, or has the potential to become very strong, so that's quite interesting. And I'm still hoping next chapter Puck will be back in more of his Black Swordsman arc-esque role, but that might be a bit hopeful on my part, because Puck hasn't really done stuff like that of recent. But yeah, that was chapter 360 of Berserk, Cherry Tree Garden. It feels weird to be saying that chapters come out. I think all Berserk fans really can understand that when a Berserk chapter comes out, that's a special event, because these days it really doesn't happen that long, and I reckon I'm going to be optimistic and say 2 more chapters this year, but it might just be 1. And whatever happens in that chapter, I don't know. But we know that hopefully Berserk will continue on this year, and this won't be the only chapter this year. So, because it's not like Hunter, where we've been waiting for well over a year now. But that's just me moaning about my favourite series of all time being on hiatus constantly. So with all that said, I've been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek. Check out my Twitter at SethTheS, and my Instagram at SethTheSin_cosplay. And yeah, I'm signing out. Everyone stay safe out there and stay indoors. Bye bye.